Hey everyone, Scott here, better known as Narebo, and today I'm going to show you how I illustrated this Ryanair 737-800. Now, as you can see, I'm using my 737-800 template that I created, and if you want to get this same thing for yourself, go over to my website, narebo.com, link in the description below, and you can get this template, and yeah, you can follow right along. Even though this is going to be a quick time lapse, as you can see, I've already started. Yeah, if you've seen some of my other videos, you kind of know the process. I start with the template, and I bring in photos from wherever I can find. In this case, I went to airliners.net. I found some photos, and it's pretty easy to find some side profile photos that I can use as a reference to create these illustrations. So what I'm doing now is I'm in Adobe Illustrator, and I'm just using that reference or that photo as a reference so I can just block out the livery here, at least the bottom portion. And again, I'm not tracing anything. I'm just kind of looking at the photo and referencing what that looks like on my illustration. And again, this is a line drawing illustration that I did that you can get over on narebo.com. And yeah, so this is basically my process. I work in Adobe Illustrator to get all the shapes, and what I do is I block them out close enough. I'm not trying to get them to fit the illustration exactly, and then I copy and paste them into Photoshop, and then I do all the trimming and shading and stuff there. It's just much easier to draw things in Illustrator, and I don't know, you can do that in Photoshop, but I don't know, I guess I'm just faster in Illustrator, and I find working between these two programs really fast for me. It works. You certainly don't have to do that. So now that I've got my shapes copied into Photoshop here, I'm just scaling them to fit the fuselage here and trying to get the colors basically correct. And as you can see, the colors didn't quite match up. They were very flat when I first brought them in. And then if I switch to the multiply blending mode in the layers palette, that drop down at the very top of the layers palette, it'll actually let the shadows and everything underneath show through. So that's how I do that. And it looks like I've got the basic livery put together, and now I'm going to focus on the engine. The Ryanair livery is so-so in terms of complexity. It's not that bad, but there are some general sweeps and some arcs that are a little bit tricky if you're not familiar with Photoshop or Illustrator or any other graphic design software. So you just have to find the way that you like doing things and just do it that way. You certainly don't have to do it the way that I do, which is working in Illustrator and Photoshop and just bouncing back and forth between the two. So yeah, I think I've got the basic livery down, and what am I doing here? Again, oh yes, the titles, which I went over to Google and I just did a search for the Ryanair logo, and I found many examples, and I believe it is not a vector version, but it was very high resolution, and it was good enough. And I separated the logo from the text. That way I can get things positioned exactly how I want them, and I can also take that text or the text logo and put it on things like the winglet here, and to get that right. Again, just like all my other illustrations, I'm not trying to get 100% perfect because it's basically impossible. And actually, if you look at any airplane in real life, you'll see that every airplane is basically different. Just the way they paint them and the way that they mask everything out. No two airplanes are exactly the same, even if they're the same livery. So yeah, so I couldn't find a vector version of the Ryanair logo. So what I'm doing here is I'm tracing the high resolution image that I found on Google. I'm in Adobe Illustrator now, and I'm just going around the edges and recreating the logo myself. Now, Adobe Illustrator has a really nice feature called Auto Trace, where you don't actually have to do this manual tracing. You just import an image. If it's a high resolution image, it'll trace the outlines of it, so you don't have to. I think the purpose of me doing this was that the logo wasn't high resolution enough, and I wanted to make sure that I got it as accurate as possible. So yeah, it's just sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you're not going to find exactly what you need on Google. And also, I should say too that the things you do find on Google, it's not really a good thing to be using whatever you find, because there are copyright issues, and you don't want to take someone else's artwork and copy it and use it for your own artwork, especially if you're going to sell it or if you're going to do something commercial with it, like you're going to put it on a t-shirt or a mug or something. Just don't do that. That's just not cool. So create your own graphics. It'll make you a better designer. It'll make you a better illustrator. Yeah, I probably didn't have to recreate this logo like this, but I did anyway, just so I can say it's my own version. And this is sped up quite a bit, so this entire process took me maybe 10 or 15 minutes to get this looking right, but it was worth it. Now I have a Ryanair logo that's completely vector, and I can do anything that I want with it in terms of placing it on images of any size. My airliner templates are very high resolution, at least the ones that you can purchase on my online store. Those are 5,000 pixels wide by 3,750 pixels tall, I believe. So you need very high resolution graphics to work with my original source files. So just know that. And it looks like I'm getting things placed here, looking pretty good. Back in Illustrator now, and what am I doing here? Oh, making some adjustments to that blue bottom section. Just wasn't looking quite right. And again, that's just the way it goes. You just got to bounce back and forth between Photoshop and Illustrator. And actually, I kind of like it all white like that. Just how you saw it was all white without that bottom blue section. That actually looked pretty nice. I wish they would have done. See, look, like that. That looks pretty good. I think I like that. But anyway, that's not necessarily the Ryanair logo, so we continue on and get that looking as accurate as possible. And again, just going through everything and making tweaks and fine-tuning everything. And as a designer and an illustrator, it's just something you do. You just nothing is ever complete. And the truth is, I could spend weeks on a single illustration, but the thing is, I don't have the patience for it. I know that there are some aircraft illustrators out there that will do that. They'll spend an entire month on one illustration, 40 hours a week. And I can't do that. I have to keep moving. I have to keep doing new things, new illustrations. I don't care if it's not 100% perfect. I guess I just have a very short attention span. So, yeah. And I mean, really, and if you look at my illustrations too, when you scale them down enough, they look very photorealistic. So, I mean, my goal isn't to create photorealistic illustrations anyway. So, they do a good enough job for what they serve their purpose for, which, for everybody that's different. For me, I like having the challenge of creating airline livery illustrations. And, of course, I like the airline industry and I like airplanes. So, and I like illustration. I've been doing it my entire life. So I just kind of combine all three, and I just have fun. That's why I do it. I mean, that's why I started doing this way back in 2012. Okay, so now I am going back in, and I'm in Illustrator, and I'm going to create the reflection that goes right down the center of the body of the aircraft. This is the hard reflection. I'm just doing a mask right now. And I just put a gradient on that. And for those that don't really understand what I'm doing there, is I create that shape in Illustrator just to get the shape of the reflection, and then I copy and paste that back into Photoshop, and then I just use that as a mask. And then I hide it, and then I use the boundaries of that shape to create the gradients below it and above it with the highlight and the shadow. So you can see right there, it is much more realistic by having a hard, I guess like a gloss cut line right down the middle. You got the shadow on the bottom and the gloss on top, and it looks, maybe not 100% how it would be in real life, but it just, anything looks better with gloss on it. That's my thoughts on things. Let's see, what am I doing here? I'm just making some adjustments to the template itself. Just adding some color to the hub there, and some highlights and things like that. And looks like it's almost done there. And again, it looks like a simple livery, but it's not. There's that bottom section is very curvy and swoopy, and it took a little bit of time to get right. And then I also had to do the logo itself. I don't know what you call that, like the angel logo or the wings logo, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, so there you have it. It's that was a fun one to do. It's one of those things that looks like it's going to be easy, but it wasn't. It wasn't exactly that way once I got into it. Anyway, if you want this 737-800 template, go over to my website. And also, if you want to get the high resolution source file of that, whether it be in PSD, vector, whatever, sign up for my email newsletter, link in the description below, and that'll automatically get you 50% off your very first purchase on my online store. So that'll save you some money, and it'll get you going quickly and cheaply. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.